Welcome to Meaningful Mornings. After Rishi Shukra shared with Raja Bali how he should share his resources, what did Raja Bali do? He gave everything he had, including himself, to God. Then what did God do? He magnified how fortunate Raja Bali is by giving him one of the greatest teachers, that is Rishi Prahlada, by giving him one of the greatest protectors, that is Bhagwan Vishnu. And the import of what we describe as a story, when you give up the finite, what do you get? The infinite. To do otherwise is complete nonsense. To give up the finite to get the infinite is not spiritual, is not logical. This is common sense. And Meaningful Mornings, this workshop, this community, is to remind us to live by common sense. Prince Arjuna asks, how does a content personality sit? They sit with discipline. That's how they sit. We have to practice discipline. What are ways we can do this? Pleasure is pain. Remember the turtle. It hides out of fear. We disengage our sense organs because we know this will only create pain. Peace is perpetual. This is the longest term investment one can engage in, is to direct their senses towards peace. Engage the mind. Remember a rope. When the mind is out of control, the senses will be out of control. Tie them together. They will be directed. Offer the mind. That is the fourth sutra. Remember that the divine, the original parent, lives in you. Let she, let he direct your senses. I had given the example of Bharata. Sri Bharata knew that though Sri Rama didn't live with him, he lived in his heart. Turtle, investment, rope, Bharata. The fifth sutra, sleep before sleepy. We become most distracted at night. So go to sleep. That will inhibit such distraction. And a word or an image to remember this by is satya. I define satya as non-compromising. When do we compromise? and I'm not presenting this positively, but rather negatively, when do we compromise the most? At night, when we are sleepy, tamas. And the sixth sutra, wake before worldly, like we're all doing, before the stock market, before our families. Wake up and insulate yourself with independence so that when you are engaged in the world, you don't fall prey to being dependent on the world that is changing. 6 verses, 6 sutras on how we can practice discipline so that we can sit with discipline like a master. All clear? You may not be able to sink into this on the first time I share this, which is why I'm engaged in this constant review. That's how mananam is to be. You keep refining these ideas. In verse 62, particularly, we are exposed to the 7th lakshana, the 7th sign of a master. They are aware. Number 6 was disciplined. Number 7 is aware. They are aware that the world, all articles, all circumstances, all beings are a means and not the ends. The world is relative and not absolute. They're aware of this, which is why they are more than the world. They do more than the world. We can practice the same. Being more than the world is not living for pleasure, possession, position. To do more than the world, it is to live for one's community and society and humanity. The more aware you are, the more you become like this, you do this. The 4th question Prince Arjuna asks, how does the content one walk? And this is answered in verse 64 onwards. The next lakshana, or sign that is shown, particularly in verse 65, which we just completed, they are knowledgeable. They are knowledgeable about the source of peace, of joy. And Swami Tejomayananda had shared, knowledge is the result. When I study for an exam, let's say I'm studying for a psychology exam, what I learn is the result, not the mark I get. And why I'm showcasing this in terms of this culture is we feel that prasada is the result when actually knowledge is the result. When I know my nature, that is prasad. So knowledge is the prasad. Prasad is not different. Knowledgeable. We continue to verse 66, a verse that I reference quite often in different workshops and classes. Before I share, Swami Tejomayananda shared with us that the best commentary on Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavad Gita. That Sri Krishna himself continues to review. We went through a ladder of fall. This is another ladder of fall, but simply shared differently. Different personalities need to be taught in different ways. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya, na cha yuktasya bhavana, na cha bhavayata shantihi, ashantasya kuta sukham. Na asti means not is. Not is what? Buddhi. not have an intellect. You can interpret this literally. The implied meaning here is if one is not following Buddhi Yoga, also known as Karma Yoga, also known as Karma Yajna. How many more also knowns should I go through? This section began in verse 39. We had completed Sankhya Yoga and then Buddhi Yoga began. So Sri Krishna is reverting back to that. The one who does not live by right actions with the right attitude, what will not happen then? They will not be yukta. Conversely, they will be ayukta. Ayukta means disintegrated. Ayukta means distracted. This is the first chain. Abuddhihi causes one to be ayukta. Going to the second quarter. For the one who's ayukta, na bhavana, they will not be able to contemplate. The one who's disintegrated cannot contemplate. Sri Krishna is using the word bhavana because contemplation, also known as nididhyasana, has a specific purpose. It is to correct our wrong identification. In Sanskrit, this is called viparita bhavana. Viparita means wrong. Bhavana means feeling. In contemplation, I am to identify less with the body and more with Brahman. So in summary, ayuktasyaha abhavana. The one who is disintegrated, that person cannot be a contemplator. That's the second chain. Abuddhihi, ayuktaha, abhavana. If one cannot contemplate, then what? Abhavayataha na shanti. The one who cannot contemplate cannot be peaceful. Ashanti. Many of your names are Shantihi, Prashantihi. Do you know anyone whose name is Ashantihi? I think there are some musicians. Ashanti, correct? See how it's come from Ashanti. They've interpreted all of this wrong. What's your name? Peaceless. Abhavana Ashantihi. Shri Krishna here is indicating samsara. Samsara means to slip away. As long as we are peaceless, we will be exhausted. When you put your recycling boxes out, and suppose the recycling person, when they flip the recycling box, there's some paper that doesn't get put into the truck. And you lift it and it blows away. And you're sensitive, you don't want it to be out there, so you start to chase it, but it's windy. It keeps blowing, you keep chasing, Ashanti. You become exhausted. Now that's with an envelope. We're doing that with our whole life. Today is garbage day. It's a big day in our family, so I'm thinking about that. See how easy it is to be happy. Garbage day is Ananda day. And now the closing part of this. Ashantasya kutasukam. For the one who doesn't know the source of peace, kutasukam, how can they be joyous? Kutaha, how? Sukham, joy, independent joy. Ashantasya asukha. That's the last part. Ashanta asukha. If you remember how the Stita Prajna Lakshanas began, the first, foremost, final sign of one who is a master. Tushtaha, which means they're content. And here Sri Krishna is saying, Ashanta, Asukha. They're not content. Everyone got those key words? Abuddhi, Ayukta, Abhavana, Ashanta, Asukha. Another ladder, correct? What an awesome teacher Sri Krishna is. What an awesome text Bhagavad Gita is. To application, your application yesterday was to memorize your sutras or my sutras. How many of you tried this? Good. On our website, I read Darshan, Jagdish, and Rita's sutras, and they're so practical. I know you feel my sutras are impractical, so read theirs. Memorize theirs. Your application for this morning, I want you to create a visual of either the ladder of fall in verses 62 and 63, or this more summarized and poetic ladder of fall, which is in verse 66. Create a visual. Do it with pictures or do it with words. Last thought. In Vyasa's summer camp, yesterday they were learning about signs. And he had all of these signs and he was saying, these are guards. A stop sign is a guard. A yield sign is a guard. Not that he's guarded in any which way or he follows these, but that's the purpose of a sign, correct? Create your own signs to catch yourself from falling. Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness.